Yes, folks. Hey, you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and today it is another episode of Your Stories. It's episode 2 of Listener Stories. I'm very excited to get into this, and actually, so everybody who listened to a couple of thank yous. One, to myself. Thanks for being me. Second of all, listeners, I should really thank the listeners. Thanks so much for... Okay, so we're not actually recording this one visually. Oh, wait, you know what? I'm going to take a picture of Keith. you look so dumb. I think because I caught you mid-blink.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a great one. I'll put up both.
Okay.
So that way, I'll stick it in the video. I always forget to do that. I'm always like, I'll put it in the video that goes on YouTube. And I always forget to put it in. Anyway, here, listen, folks. Thanks so much for listening to the first listener stories, which we did record in Keith's attic. People really liked it, so thanks so much for that. We are not recording this one because we just aren't. But we will record more. I generally want to record more podcast episodes. I'd actually like eventually to have all of our episodes video done style.
Yeah.
But I'd like to have like a set and shit. Plus that's like a whole ordeal of work. I'd probably have to hire an editor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But fuck it, it'd be cool.
Like the actual shooting of it, I think it was fine. But it was I didn't do it, but
Yeah.
I know from you all the editing trying to get Evan kind of match up.
Right, yeah. That's the problem. So I'd love to do that like for every episode, and then have like relevant clips in and pictures and stuff like that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Second, thank you, or third, I've lost count, but none are for you. Is to everybody sent in their listener tales. Keep sending them in, folks. So I have a Google Doc where I save them all as soon as I get them in. It's over 60 pages, so there's quite a few. Keep them coming. If we haven't gotten to if you've sent one in and we haven't gotten to it, we probably will. Unless it's bad, then we won't. But
we'll let you know, don't worry.
Yeah. But thank you so much. No, here, seriously, everybody sent them in. We got some great stories here. So thank you to everybody who sent in a story. Appreciate you taking the time to do that. And so today we're going to listen out some more of your stories. Keith, are you excited?
I'm super excited. I cannot wait. It's going to be
Excellent. By the way, speaking of listener stories, because I love using these listener stories because they're always creepy and spooky. Anything spooky happen in the infamous attic?
Not yet, but I have recently purchased a Ouija board, which we could actually maybe do in one of our video podcastings.
I think we should definitely do it.
Definitely do that.
Yeah, we actually have quite a lot of stuff recorded. Like we mentioned it before, how we were in Boston together and we recorded some stuff. I have so much fucking video shit. I just don't have time because I edit all my own stuff, so I need to hire a video editor.
Yeah.
But yes, we should definitely film that. Who do you want to talk to? We should talk to like famous people or something.
Anyone who listens, anyone who'll talk back. That's the main thing.
Oh.
So I feel like as I said, I think I said before, just we had the usual like bumps in the night and stuff, like, and like sounds of like doors of closing, but like nothing kind of, as I said, like nothing to write home about, nothing mad. So I feel the Ouija board could entice them spirits out.
Yes.
So I think we could have a lot of fun with that.
Okay, I mean, here, listen, it's your house, so I don't care.
Look, man, and for the content, you know?
Anything for the content. Hey, listen, this is gold.
I can only move houses, only one podcast, you know?
yeah, that's true. Keith, you've knocked it out of the park yet again with your logic.
I was reading through the Ouija board that I got, and it has like a rule booklet in it.
Really? Wow. What are the whole point of a Ouija board is you're talking to like dead people or like spirits or whatever the fuck. Like, what do you need a rule book for?
Well, there was one rule, and it says to not ask when you'll die.
First thing I'm gonna ask.
I know, right? I think I'd like to know what I'm gonna
I
die.
wouldn't like to know.
Would you not know?
No. Why would you want to know when you're gonna die?
You can plan around it. I'll take the week off work. I could make sure the day I'm gonna die, I'm tremendously hungover, because I know myself.
You want to die?
Yeah,
that's
it's
a good point.
When I'm hungover, I'm like, oh fuck this, I am done. So
I would just the day before just do all of the drugs in the world.
There you go. Yeah. You wouldn't even know.
Although then again, it would be kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, if you kind of knew. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like this Final Destination style shit. No, I wouldn't want to know. Plus, it would just be in my head then the whole time.
What I'm going to ask is, I'm going to ask when you die.
My friend, you have me there.
You can't stop me.
First thing is, when does Mike die? Oh no! Not if I ask it first. All right. Okay, folks. So let's get into some of your stories. As I said, the stories we're going to tell here. These aren't in order of sent. I kind of just randomly went through this big ass file and picked out some ones that I just thought on face value looked good. Me and Keith have not read through these stories, so we're raw dogging it. Bite the pillow. We're going in raw. This is a spit on your hand job and rub it in.
Maybe you should make this visual.
It's one of those ones, folks. So, yeah. So, I'll begin. I'm going to read out the story here.
Okay, I've talked myself into it.
I'm sorry. I always do that. Half of this podcast is me trying to get ahead of what's going to happen and then being shocked. Oh, that's not actually what happened.
Yeah,
I always think I know what's going to happen. I've seen too many movies. I watch too much shit. Bear with me, folks, who are listening at home, because the person who sent this in did not write their name on it, so I don't know who it is. It looks like a good story, but if I kind of want to credit the people who sent it in. Oh man, I don't know who sent. I actually don't know who sent us in. I can't find the reference email because I just copy and paste from emails, and their name wasn't in the email. I don't think, or it's not here. Okay. Well, whoever sent us in, thanks. So, hey guys, I have some interesting and scary moments in my life I thought you would be interested in. Susanna Martin, one of the many women who was hung in Salem, MA, is one of my ancestors. There you go. Keith's already in love with you. He wishes he could meet you. My mom's side of the family is what you would call sensitives or mediums, as well as some of them do practice different types of witchcraft. Keith's eyes are... Guys, you should see how Keith's eyes is lit up.
Well, I'm a large, you know.
Yeah. I grew up like a normal kid, do all the things that normal kids do. However, I did have moments growing up that weren't so typical for a kid. I like other kids. I'm a cool kid. When I was in elementary school, I used to go over to my aunt's and uncle's house a lot to hang out with my cousins. We liked to walk around the town, go to friends' houses, walk into the woods, go to store for candy, usual kid shit. I, however, made the candy runs very difficult. Every time we would start walking to the store, there was this one house on the left with a very old tree with a huge hole in the middle in the front yard. And for some reason, it put my flight or fight into gear, and I would panic and start crying and telling everybody I didn't want to go this way. I don't want to go by this house. Can we take a different way? And everybody would get upset because the other way was way longer, but I know something about this house was freaking me out. I would refuse to move any further past that house and that tree. It just didn't make me feel good. It scared the living hell out of me for some reason. Years later, when I was in my late teens, someone new purchased the house and decided that they didn't like the old tree in the front yard. They cut down the old tree. They found really old human remains inside.
Oh, shit.
Wow. When I was in my teens, my mom used to clean a house for this elderly man named Bob. And when she was done cleaning, they would just sit and hang out and talk. They really became friends. One day, Bob passed away. And obviously, my mother was very sad because they were quite close. She was even allowed to bring his favorite chair home. Oh, heckarino. I see where this is going, folks.
Haunted chair.
Yeah. Chair, fuck you. Don't bring it home. My mom absolutely loves antiques. Our whole house has always been filled with them, and now she has a piece that is not only an antique, but she also has an emotional connection to the person who owned it. When I was 17, I went to go visit my mom. She lived in these condominiums that every single one looked exactly the same from the front and the back. She had lived in this house since I was about 2 years old, and we moved in and out of it my entire life. One day, she asked me to go grab something for her from the basement, and of course I said yes. Our basement was a finished basement, and it had a living room, and I had another room for laundry. I was descending the stairs into the basement, and I wasn't really thinking of anything when I got to the last few steps. Instead of walking down them, I jumped and turned. When I did that and I looked up, I saw a man in the living room in the basement wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt with white hair, and he looked really confused. My first thought was that I could be one of our neighbors who has dementia or something like that and thought our house was his. As I said before, all the houses looked the exact same. He looked me right in the face, and I got so frightened because there was a stranger in my basement that I ran back up the stairs. Once I was up the stairs, I found my mom in the kitchen. I was talking very fast because there's a strange guy in the basement, and I told her what had happened, what the man looks like, and he's in her basement, and she should lock the basement, and she told me that the basement door has been locked. There's no way anyone could have gotten into our basement. Then she kindly told me that her friend Bob's chair is in the basement, and from the description I gave to her, it sounded like it was Bob, yes.
Shit, that's like a Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
You know, like
I see dead people.
yeah, like they're like they look like living people. Like they
Yeah.
don't look like ghosts. But like
I think that kind of makes it creepier.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah, if they look like, if they're not like translucent or whatever.
If it's not like clear, oh, that's a ghost.
Yeah.
If it's just like, oh shit, this person here to kill
Yeah.
me, or this a ghost person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't look like the ghosts you see on TV. He was full figured from head to toe. I could see him like a normal person. I think that's what really scared me the most, is I couldn't tell, as we were just saying. In my late teens, my brother-in-law died overseas. We all grew up together. He lived a few houses down from us, and his home life wasn't very stable, so he spent a lot of time with us and ended up falling in love with one of my sisters. Him and I were very close. We would exchange CDs, play video games, and of course get each other in trouble with Mom. It was the hardest loss I ever had. That evening we got the news about him. It was hard for everybody. We'd all lost a brother, a son, and a husband. My mom liked to say that he was the rooster of the henhouse because my whole house was full of women. Okay, see, I was right.
There you go. Okay, yeah.
When we finally got home that night and tried to go to bed, I just couldn't sleep. My life was turned upside down. Once the morning got closer, I'd say about 2 or 3 in the morning, my eyes were starting to get heavy, and right before I closed my eyes, I looked at the foot of my bed, and I saw him standing there in his regular clothes. He always wore a black t-shirt and blue jeans. He looked right at me. He didn't look sad, more like at peace. He just smiled a little bit, then his eyes closed. The next morning, I woke up, my mind immediately remembered what happened, and I jumped out of bed and ran into my mom's room, and I told her what had happened. I was so frightened by that event that I had to sleep in a bed with my mom for 3 days. I knew that my brother couldn't hurt me, but it was just a scary moment. Mid-20s. I was living with my boyfriend in his apartment, and it was a very old apartment building, and it was falling apart. The building, you could tell, was sectioned off differently back in the day. We had a staircase from the basement going up to the floor of our closet. What? So a staircase that went nowhere. That's creepy. I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Dirt floors in the basement with dripping water from God knows where. We also had a different variety of people living in this building. We had a drug dealer and a prostitute living in our building, and people were constantly fighting in the other apartments. So you know there was just a lot of negative energy flowing through our building, as well as a woman with 5 or 6 kids. This apartment, I didn't like being alone in it for some reason. It always made me feel like someone was in the other room, watching me, or waiting in one of the closets. Some mornings were normal. Others, I was too scared to pull the cover off my head. I would get the sensation that there was something negative standing by the bed waiting for me to pull the covers off my head. I've also had an image in my mind of a human puppet, basically with the limbs cut, and was dancing over my bed like a puppeteer would make a puppet dance.
Jesus, scary.
You should see Keith's expression as I was reading that. He looked very disgusted. That is very creepy. You would think that I probably saw this in a movie or online or something, and that's how it got into my brain, but I've never seen any scary movie that shows a human puppet with their limbs snapped and dancing. We used to try and burn a lot of sage and smudge our surroundings, and that helped a little bit. In the same apartment, I was taking a shower. I tilted my head back to rinse the conditioner out of my hair and face and wash off my face. When I tilted my head forward, there was an elderly woman in the shower with me.
What? Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah. She was a short old lady with white, wavy short hair, and she had clothes on, and she was looking at me. I just got so scared I don't think I rinsed the rest of my body and just jumped out of the shower and ran out of the room. After that, I would make my boyfriend sit in the bathroom while I showered.
Oh, poor him.
Yeah. Woof, woof.
Yeah.
Hey, shower farts are the worst farts. A month or so later, my boyfriend found out from a friend who is a medium that he works with. It said there is an elderly woman in our apartment and that she drowned in a lake in our town, that she used to live in this building. Come to find out, it was one of his friend's moms that also lived in the building quite a few years ago that drowned in a lake in our town. They do say water is like a conduit, like a doorway between our world and the next.
And these are like pure or something.
Yeah, moving, flowing, who knows?
Something about like, have you ever had like a? Do you ever have like a shower at night when like the light's gone in your bathroom?
No.
So that you're showering in the dark, basically.
No, I've never had that.
Yeah, it's terrifying. There's been a couple of times when like I haven't got a spare bulb and it's middle of the night, so I have to have a shower.
Yeah.
And it's like pitch black, and you definitely feel like someone's watching you.
Oh.
And like when you close your, like it's terrifying to close your eyes because you feel like when you open, someone's going to be there.
Wait, I mean, it's dark, you want to see?
Exactly. Well, there you go.
And finally, now I'm in my early 30s. My family and I visited my mom at her new house, which was actually my pappy's house. He also loved antiques and he would sell them, and they were all over the house. Even when my mom was living, it was still full of his antiques and the antiques she brought from our old house. We went to visit for my 34th birthday and we decided we were going to spend the weekend there. Usually my boyfriend and I would sleep upstairs with my kids and my mom in the bedrooms up there. But our room was so hot that we decided we were going to sleep in the TV room on a blow-up mattress. The night before my actual birthday, my kids decided that they were going to sleep downstairs with us too. I couldn't sleep that night, so I was doing a few things around the house, and then I finally lay down. I would say maybe 10 minutes later, all of a sudden there was a huge orb in my face that was so bright, it was the brightest thing I'd ever seen, like a pure white light. I went through all the thoughts of, am I crazy? Is this sleep paralysis? Maybe it was some kind of static from the blankets. What if it was a car driving by and the headlights lit up the room? But there's no way that would happen. I had all these theories running through my mind, and then all of a sudden my boyfriend says to me, "Did you just see something really bright?" He was also facing the opposite way than I was, so if it was static electricity or something like that, I don't think he would have seen it. It lit the room up so brightly and came just as fast as it left. Maybe it was someone just coming to visit to say happy birthday, or could have been a more personal message. I've never seen an orb in real life, only in photos, until this night, and now I have a witness that can say they saw the light too. I'm sure as my life will continue, there will be more. Thank you so much to this person who sent that story in. The woman in the bathtub with you is incredibly creepy. I think the story was sent in by Robin, by the way, if that's your name. Sorry, I don't have it here. But thanks, Robin, if that's your name who sent it in. That story of the woman in the bath is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
I don't like that.
Yeah, kind of like, I'm picturing like the woman from, The Shining.
Yes.
Yeah. Except she was nude. This woman had clothes on.
Yeah.
I think the thing that like really terrified me that was like the ghost that she's seen. They were like confused.
Yeah.
Which is
that
like,
reminds me more of like the Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Because I think the ghosts in that were like,
what
they don't.
Her?
Yeah, where am I?
Yeah. It's always interesting, these stories from mediums and stuff.
Yeah.
And my wife had like an interesting one before where she and like she wouldn't claim she's a medium or any of stuff, but she had something happened. So she was pregnant with our daughter, and the week before my daughter was born, my wife had a dream, and in the dream her uncle came to her in a dream. She's never met her uncle before. It's so her dad's brother died like years and years and years ago, so she never met him, but she knew when he came in the dream, she knew who it was.
Okay.
She must have seen photos of him before, but she just automatically knew who it was. She just thought none of it. She's like, no, that was a weird dream, I must tell my dad, but she kind of forgot about it. But then my daughter, when she was actually born, we were kind of chatting around the days, and her dad was like, oh, that's so-and-so's birthday. So our daughter was born on the uncle that came to visit my wife in dreams' birthday.
Weird.
A week before.
That's really crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that is really weird.
Because it was only when her dad said it, she just remembers like, oh my God, I was meant to tell you. Last week I had a dream about your brother. And he was like, what? You've never met him? And I was like, yeah. But it was just mad the way she had the dream the week before, and then our daughter just happened to be born on his birthday.
Wow.
Of a man that she's never met.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Isn't it? Yeah,
it's a bizarre set of interesting. All right, next story. Keith, which one do you want to do? Do you want to cover the next one?
Let me have a look. Yeah, I'll do this one. It looks like it's nice. It's short and sweet. Okay, so who's this from? This is from Denise. Denise Shields in Pittsburgh, PA, USA.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for doing your thing.
So she says, hello. I enjoy your videos and love listening to your podcast with Keith, myself.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Keith's reading out your story.
I am. So, my story takes place during the 1980s. A key element to this story is that during this time, demonic influence and satanic worship were a big concern in American culture. I like this already.
I know. Good. You love your satanic shit, Keith. Big fan.
It's just really good stories. I really enjoy it,
I know.
So this was an age when a lot of crimes were attributed to satanic rituals, and backward masking was a thing.
Wait, what? Backward masking? What's that?
It's
literally about to explain it. Okay.
No, guess. You have a guess.
I think it could be when.
Oh, stop reading. So backward masking was when you would spin a record backwards on a record player with the needle down and could hear messages that were most likely satanic that were hidden. You couldn't hear these messages when the record was playing forward. A clever way to get all of us to worship the Dark Lord. I think there was definitely stuff with that with like Led Zeppelin and stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, possibly maybe the Beatles. I can't remember. So I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and priority one was protecting ourselves from any demonic forces. We were taught that any encounter with dark spirits could be averted by calling on God for help. Go away in the name of Jehovah. As a child of the 80s, I was terrified daily of a nuclear attack. terrified of nuclear attacks and satanic forces.
Man.
It's all happening in the 80s. Remember that countdown clock telling us all how close we were to the threat of nuclear war? I do not, but I assume
The doomsday clock, the minutes to midnight. Apparently it's like closer now than ever.
Oh, that okay, yeah.
No, we know.
Oh, no,
Explain it to you. Yeah, now you know. I just explained it to you, motherfucker.
Oh, the countdown clock. Okay, yeah. That's bad writing. That's not on me.
Don't blame Denise, because you're an idiot. I knew exactly what she meant.
I'm sorry, Denise. I am the idiot. The vigilance of the Jehovah's Witnesses was to identify entertainment that was tied up in satanic and demonic influence was unmatched. There were many bands we were no longer allowed to listen to, shows we couldn't watch, and we were made to feel that kids were being drawn into the devil's worship at alarming rates.
And they are.
They are, yeah. Still are to this day.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. My mother took all of this very seriously, and it didn't affect my life too much until one Sunday, during a meeting at our place of worship, we were warned that a seemingly innocent cartoon that your children probably watch blatantly uses magic and sorcery and most likely is a getaway to full-blown Satan worship. You
Hell
guess
yeah.
it was the Smurfs. Are you videoing me?
Yes.
Oh, no. At this time, cartoons were on Saturday mornings, and that was pretty much it. I loved Saturday morning cartoons, and I loved the Smurfs. I even had a nightgown and a pair of roller skates with Smurfs on them. I roller skated every day.
Roller skedaddled, I believe the term.
Ah, of course, yeah. I would make up routines and would skate for hours outside. It was my favourite pastime. My family was very poor, and I did not have many toys or items of clothing. My mother insisted that we had to get rid of my nightgown and roller skates. That's devastating. I begged to keep my skates. I said I would scrap off all the small Smurfs that were on the side of the skates. That was not possible according to my mother. These skates were tainted with a Smurf, and trying to remove it would make no difference. I fought hard because I knew we could not afford to buy another pair of skates. All my pleading was to no avail, and the nightgown and the skates were thrown away.
No.
Oh. Not too long after this, I was lying awake in my bed. The head of my bed was across from my bedroom door, and I could see straight down the hall. At the end of the hall was the door that led into the attic. I was lying there, waiting for sleep to come. It was the middle of the night, and everyone else in my family was also in bed. I started to hear a ping pong ball being hit from one side of the ping pong table to the other, from up in the attic. Not too poor with a ping pong table in the attic, huh?
Oh, so you said you had 4 things, and now you got ping pong.
Back and forth until it hit the floor. I could hear it bounce a few times on the floor and then roll across the floor. Then, as I continued to stare straight ahead, trying to make sense of what I was hearing, I saw a Smurf blue-coloured mist appear from the attic door.
Ooh, the Smurfs are coming back for their revenge.
It was Papa Smurf. No. With my greatest weapon at my disposal, I said, "Go away in the name of Jehovah." The blue mist disappeared, and I no longer heard the ping pong ball rolling around. I was convinced that because I wanted to keep those Smurf skates, and sometimes I snuck an episode of the Smurfs in on a Saturday morning, that I had invited demons into our home. I didn't tell anyone about what had happened. I am convinced now that it was my imagination, but it scares me more because, wow, brainwashing is real.
I love this story just because it's so dumb.
I love that. That was great.
The Smurfs skates came back to haunt you because you had to throw
away my
away.
Skates.
Yeah.
Thanks, Denise.
That's a good one. Thanks, Denise, for sending it in. All right, so this story, it's sent in from Brock. Thanks for listening, watching. Hey, listen, whatever you do, I appreciate it, and me and Keith appreciate you. So I'm going to start this story. Oh, wow, this is a long story. All right, yeah, better be good. This is long. Okay, so let's begin. I grew up in a small ranch-style house in a small town in mid-Michigan. The house itself was purchased by my mom in 1985, soon after I was born. There wasn't anything very significant about the house itself, but the property did have some interesting history associated with it. It had once been the location of a one-room schoolhouse in the area, and some elderly neighbors who lived down the road actually attended that very school as children. Okay, I know where this is going. Haunted schoolhouse. Mm-hmm. I've seen this movie before.
100%, yeah.
I
Well,
know
it can be
it's
haunted if some people are still alive.
Oh, yeah. But they're old, so they're like pre-ghosts.
Oh, okay,
That's what I'm going to call old people from now on.
Pre-ghost.
Pre-ghosts. Yeah. Growing up, my house consisted of my mom, my sister, and myself. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home with a semi-finished basement that consisted of a concrete floor and block walls. My sister and I always felt like the basement was a little creepy. But I think most people feel that way about their basement. Like any kind of scary dark room that's empty. It's always weird.
It's gotta be a bit creepy, yeah.
I don't remember anything paranormal happening when I was a child, but I do remember always wanting to sleep with my bedroom door open and a small fan on when I would go to bed for the night. That makes me... No, I hate sleeping with an open door. It freaks me out, I think, if I was like...
Yeah,
because I could just imagine like somebody peeping around, peeping ahead.
Yeah, I feel safe with the door closed unless it's already in there with you.
Oh, then I'm locking it in. It's not locked. Hey, listen, the way I look at it, it's not locked in here. I'm not locked in here with it. It's locked in here with me.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm not wearing any clothes.
Yeah, exactly. I was vigorously masturbating in the corner while making furious eye contact.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. So that fact that they would sleep with the bedroom door open and a small fan on when they go for bed, that would make more sense as I got older and things started, dun 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 folks, happening. Anything to help drown out the sounds in that house and to make sure I always had an escape route out of my room. Okay, Brock, you've shocked me. The first experience I can remember happening actually happened quite a few times, starting when I was about 13. I would be lying in bed at night after having just shut off the lights, when all of a sudden it sounded like the big bookcase in my room had tipped over, dumping the contents all over the room. I would jump out of the bed and race over to the light switch, which was on the completely other side of the room, only to discover that nothing had moved at all.
Ghost books.
Yeah, the worst kind of books. Everything was right where I left it, and right where it should be. It wasn't just the sound of the crash though, I could feel it hit the ground and shake my room, but every time, no matter when it happened, every time I turned the lights on, nothing would be out of place. My sister, who had the room right next to mine, could also hear and feel the ground shake as though the bookcase had tipped over, but it never actually did. This probably happened 4 or 5 times throughout my time at that house, but I can never figure out why or how this happened. It never happened in any other room of the house, it never happened to any other object, always the bookcase. Eventually, as I got older, I no longer needed or wanted the bookcase, and once it was out of the house, I never experienced that again. Little did I know, that was the start of something otherworldly. It was the start of something that would change my life and make me question everything I'd ever known.
Oh shit, this is good. Oh,
the
man.
drama queen. All right, okay.
I'm hooked though.
I am hooked,
yeah.
Brock. I am hooked. This is good. The next experience I had was one of the more fascinating, as it wasn't just me who saw this, but my mom was a witness as well. I was about 14, and I was watching TV in the living room, and my mom was there too, but she was actually reading a magazine instead of watching whatever was on. Our TV sat inside an oak entertainment center, along with various VHS tapes, VCR, and other decorations that my mom had. The top of the entertainment center was a great place to put things, and my mom had a hurricane lamp there, along with several other knickknacks. If you're unfamiliar with what exactly a hurricane lamp is, and I was literally just about to ask, I've never heard of a hurricane lamp before in my life.
I'm gonna guess it's some sort of lava lamp.
Brock's there, I bet to explain, but how about we ignore that and just invent what a hurricane lamp is?
Yeah, okay.
What do you think a hurricane? Do you think it's a lava lamp?
I feel it's some sort of lava lamp that kind of swirls. That's what I'm picturing.
Okay, I think what a hurricane lamp is basically a decorative candle that comes in 3 parts.
Wait, did you just read it?
No.
Oh, you're spot on. Well done.
I just guessed that I'm right. You have the candle itself, which sits on a ceramic base, and then a big glass cylinder fits over the top of the candle.
Oh, what a guess.
Gee, knocked it out of the park yet again. On this night, while watching TV, I heard something make a clinging sound coming from on top of the entertainment center. It sounded as if the glass cylinder of the hurricane lamp was lightly hitting the base it sat on. As the sound got progressively louder, I watched as the glass cylinder began to quickly shake back and forth as I looked on in terror. And as I looked on in terror, I saw the cylinder lift off the base about 4 to 5 inches, still slightly shaking back and forth, and after a few seconds it sat back down where it was originally, and everything was back to normal. Yeah, that's weird. I sat there staring at the lamp, not taking my eyes off it, and I finally asked my mom if she saw that as well, to which she thankfully replied that she had. I asked her what happened, and she said she had no idea, but she definitely saw it lift up and heard the same sounds that I had heard. I didn't have the courage to sleep in my own bed that night, so I slept on her floor. My mom has heard me talk about the bookcase sounding like it tipped over in the past, but she assumed it was the result of an overactive imagination. Now, having seen the incident with the hurricane lamp, she could no longer deny that there was something weird going on in the house. My mom would go on to have a few more encounters herself, but that night with the hurricane lamp was unexplainable, and for me, it was just getting started. It wasn't much longer until the next paranormal event would take place. We had just received our class yearbook at school, and I was in my room, laying on my bed facing towards my bedroom door, with the overhead light on, and the door to my room was resting shut, but not completely pushed close. As I flipped through the pages, I saw out of the corner of my eye that the door was open about 3 to 4 inches, almost as if someone was looking at me. As soon as I looked up from my yearbook, the door would slowly close back to the resting shut position as it had originally been. Okay, now that's creepy as hell.
That's paranormal.
Yes. I tried to push it off and went back to reading, but a few seconds later, it did it again. I could see the door open about 3 to 4 inches, and as I looked up, it slowly shut. I couldn't see anyone looking in, however, because the hallway outside my room was dark.
Oh, that's creepy.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
This happened 3 or 4 more times, and at this point I knew something was going on. I thought maybe it was my sister playing a joke on me, even though she was not the sort of person to do something like that. So I got out of bed, waiting behind the door for it to open once again. If it was my sister who was doing it, I was going to hit the door back into her face and it would be very hilarious.
That's assault.
You can't assault your sibling, we all know that.
That's true.
But as I waited, the door never moved. I waited and I waited and I waited, but nothing happened. Finally, I gave up and found my sister in her room. I asked her if she was the one opening my door, but she denied it. But she said from her room she could see the door opening and closing because the light in my room would shine onto the floor in the hallway. Apparently someone or something was keeping an eye on me that night. At this point in the story, my sister had moved out to go to college, and I was about 15 years old, so it was just my mom and I there. One night, no more than 5 minutes after we both decided to head to bed and I turned out my light, I distinctly heard a woman's voice. It sounded like it was off in the distance, maybe in another room in the house, but what she was saying was unmistakable. It was my name. I could clearly hear Brock, but I assumed it was my mom calling for me from her bedroom across the hall, so I said, what? Then I heard it again, and again. Brock. Each time a little louder than before, and every time I responded with a louder, what? Finally, frustrated that my mom wasn't just coming to my room instead of shouting across the hall, I got out of bed, opened her door, and asked why she was calling my name. She told me she hadn't been, but she could hear me talking. I explained what I heard, and she said she never heard a woman's voice, but knew that I had. It wasn't a situation where I was in that, sort of mind where you're kind of asleep, but not totally. I had just turned off my light and had gotten under my covers when I heard it, so you're kind of sleepy, but not quite asleep. I can remember that I was not tired yet, but this encounter, whatever it was, had been trying to communicate me. It was like the activity was increasing in the house, each time getting more and more intense. I never knew what was going to happen, and I could never have imagined what was in store for me next.
Ooh, quite the storyteller.
Something else happened that still gives me chills to this day. My mom had remarried, and my stepfather was now living with us. He knew about my ghost stories, but didn't really believe them. He always figured there had to be some sort of explanation. One night, as we were all getting ready for bed, I asked them to please keep the door to their bedroom open.
Weird request.
Yeah, I'd like to watch.
You the ghost?
Yeah. I always wanted the doors open in case something happened. That way I could run across the hall to their bedroom. They agreed and we all went to our rooms. I remember it was a clear night and the moon was bright, because even though my bedroom window blinds were closed, I could still see inside my room, even with the lights off. I could always make sure that my mom kept her door open, because I could see a red light on the cordless phone in their bedroom if the door was open. If I couldn't see that little red light, then obviously the door was closed. As I lay in bed, I remember rolling over to face the door, but as I did, I noticed that I could no longer see the red light in my mom's room. However, I quickly realized that it wasn't because her door was closed. It was because something was standing in my room, just inside the door. Okay, this is the time when the cliffhanger actually is paying off, yes.
Yeah.
I could make out what I assumed to be 2 shapes. One was tall, maybe 6'2", 6'3". The other one came up to about that one's shoulder. It looked like 2 people were standing there, side by side, but I couldn't see any other kind of features. No face, no clothing, nothing but the black masses. They were darker than anything else in the room that I could see by the moonlight. The first thing that came to my mind was my mom and stepfather were playing a joke on me, so I said to the shadows, "I see you guys, it's not funny." The shadows didn't move, and they didn't answer. I started to get scared, but just hoped it was my mom and stepfather, so I said again, "Okay guys, please stop, this is not funny." But again, no movement, and no response from the shadowy figures. Now I knew it wasn't them, but something was standing there. I knew I had to act fast, so I decided I was going to throw my comforter from my bed at the shadow and run for the light by the door across from my room. That's just going to piss them off, if anything.
Right? Yeah. Don't throw it at them. They still have feelings.
I counted to myself, 1, 2, 3. Now, I threw the blankets, jumped for the light, and as I turned it on, nothing was there and the blanket fell to the floor. I looked across the hall to see if my mom's door was open, and it was. I could see the red light. I had clearly seen something, but now it was gone. What was it? Why was it there? Why me? I couldn't figure it out. Nothing made sense anymore, but it was clearly there. I turned off the lights and decided to go back to bed. Nervously, I crawled under the covers and lay there facing my door as I had before. I could see everything in my room again by moonlight, but this time there were no shadows in my doorway. I tried to go to sleep, but my heart was racing. I was too afraid to close my eyes, because I didn't want something to be even closer this time when I reopened my eyes. I gave up and went across the hall to my mom's room and slept on the floor for the night, and thankfully nothing else happened. So all of these events we're leading to the big grand finale.
With the ghost looking for his bookcase.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there it is.
Hey, bro. You see my bookcase, man?
I heard things. I had seen inanimate objects levitate, shake, and move, and I had seen what many people describe as shadow people. Which I think did I tell this story on the podcast? But that's what my wife said she saw in the room in her hotel in Budapest.
Yeah.
Shadow people. This, it's so funny. Before we get to the grand finale, is that reading all these people's ghost stories. I'm not a believer in ghosts at all. I think you were probably more than I am.
I'm probably more open to it. I've never had experience. I'm still very skeptical.
Yeah.
Like I've had no hard proof, but I'd like to believe.
Yeah,
I
me
want
too.
to, yeah.
These stories, the stories we get in from listeners about the shit they've seen, it definitely makes me question my sanity. Yeah, these stories are driving me wild. So Brock heard things, seen inanimate objects levitate, shake, and move, and had seen what many people describe as shadow people. But the worst was yet to come. It was a cool fall evening and I was 17. I was home alone and the sun was just beginning to set. I had just made something to eat for dinner and decided to watch a movie. I was laying on my bed facing the TV when all of a sudden I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. It was something big in the hallway. As I turned my head to see what caught my attention, I saw a man walk past my door in the hall. This wasn't a shadow or a see-through apparition that you might see in ghost documentaries. This was a man. It looked as real as you or me. Unfortunately, I wasn't fast enough to see all of them. What I saw was the arm of a tall man in a light brown tweed-style jacket, and his leg in dark brown trousers. I knew exactly what I had just witnessed, and I was completely frozen in fear. I had been scared before with all the other incidents, but this was different. I couldn't move. I didn't even know if I was breathing. I just kept looking at the door, eyes fixated, hoping he wasn't going to come back, or worse yet, walk into my room. I can't tell you how many seconds or minutes passed, but eventually I got off my bed and peered around the open door in my room to see if there was anything down the hall. It was completely empty. No man, no footsteps, no noise of any kind. I remember breathing really hard at this point because someone was there in the house with me, but I couldn't see them. Was he going to reappear as soon as I stepped out of my room? Was he right behind me now? I couldn't wait around to find the answers to the numerous questions running through my mind, so I ran in the hall, grabbed the cordless phone, and ran out of the front door of the house. I called a friend of mine just to calm me down, but I didn't tell him why I was calling. I just wanted to talk about anything other than what had just happened, and there was no way I was going back into that house until someone else came home. After seeing the man walk past my bedroom, the activity seemed to stop. Nothing else happened to me. However, there have been other mysterious paranormal events that happened to my mom and my sister while all of these things were happening to me. One night in the winter while I was asleep, both my mom and my sister heard someone knocking on the front door. When my mom got up to see if someone needed help, she turned on the porch light, but there was no one there. There wasn't even footprints in the snow to indicate anyone was there. She turned off the light, went back to bed, but it wasn't long before she heard the knocking yet again, more intense this time. She got out of bed to check it. My sister met her in the hallway saying she heard it too, but once again, they examined the front door. No one there, nothing there, no footprints, nada. My sister had some strange encounters too. She swears she heard my grandma Randolph's grandfather clock go off in the middle of the night a couple of times. The interesting thing was that though my grandma had passed away a few months before, we didn't own a grandfather clock. She also claims to have woken up in the middle of the night, seen someone standing in a room, then turn and head across the hall to my mother's room. She described it as a greyish, shadowy thing, but she couldn't make out any details. She also claims to have been touched on her ears and her hair in the middle of the night by something. She developed a phobia from it, where she had to sleep with her hair covering her ears and covers all the way up to her face, and she still sleeps that way this very day because of it. We also had this old antique mirror that just disappeared from our house one day as well. I remember seeing it as I walked out the door to go to school one morning because I was quickly looking at myself in it. It was the very last thing I did every day before I left. However, when I got home, something felt off. I couldn't figure it out, but I could just feel that something didn't seem normal. I brushed the feeling aside and continued on with my night. When my mother got home, she asked me what had happened to the mirror. I told her I had no idea. When I went to the kitchen to see where it always had been hanging, it was gone. We never found it. One of my favorite stories that doesn't involve me is fantastic because it involves another witness who had no prior knowledge of any hauntings in the house, but it verifies everything. You see, eventually my mom remarried and had another daughter named Grace. When she was about 3 years old, she was downstairs with my mom when changing over a load of laundry. Grace was sitting on an old paint can and looking straight ahead to an area around the corner, to where my mom couldn't see from her location at the washing machine. Suddenly, she saw Grace slowly lift her hand and reluctantly wave to someone. My mom was shocked and more than a little frightened. She asked Grace who she was waving at. Without hesitation, Grace responded, "The man standing over there."
That's creepy.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? Is that I've heard a lot of stories of children seeing people, waving at people who adults can't see. My nephew.
Yeah.
Him and his family, they live in a house like it's an apartment.
Yeah.
In the building, and there's a underground car park underneath the apartment building. My brother told me he said he's seen the burned man down there.
Yeah.
So I'll have to re-ask him. My brother can be on the next list of stories, but he said something about that, he keeps asking about the burned man who lives in the basement.
I remember we're out in the pub when he told us that. Yeah, it was.
He said some. He's also said some weird stuff. Oh, man, he's told some weird stories. Again, this is my brother telling me these stories, but he remembers stuff like past lifestyle shit.
Oh, that's mad.
Stuff like the stuff a kid wouldn't know.
Yeah.
About a life, and he would just talk about it like it's normal. He wasn't amending it, but I don't know. Kids just talk weird shit, but
yeah. They talk all sorts of
nonsense. I'll have to go and get more information on this, but I know he's told some weird stories. You have a child. Has they ever said anything creepy?
It was a couple of weeks ago. She was, because we still have the monitor in her room.
Yeah.
And she woke up, and it was about 3:30 in the morning. She woke up, and we could hear her over the monitor going, and we're like, "Are you alright?" And she's like, "There's someone in my room." And I was like, "No, there's not." And she's like, "Okay." Back to sleep. It's I'm not checking it out.
There's something in your room. Why would I go in there?
But she just accepted it. She was like, "No, there's not." It's like, "All right." And then literally fell back to sleep. I was like, "Okay, great." Definitely a really creepy story.
Very creepy story. Thank you so much, Brock, for sending that in.
I noticed there was a lot of similarities about what he experienced, what I've kind of been talking about in the podcast, the knocking on the door, when my wife heard me calling her. And I was and I wasn't calling her.
Right, yeah.
She came up the stairs, she's like, "What do you want?" It's like, I wasn't calling you.
Yeah.
But what I'm really interested in is, are hurricane lamps, the one I described, a real thing? Because if not, I think it should be.
I think we should delete this from the podcast so we can invent it and make our millions, baby.
That's it.
All right.
Hurricane lava lamps. Yeah. We're pivoting the business.
That chapter branded Hurricane lava lamps. They'll sell millions. I remember we used to have a lava lamp, actually. So, hey, listen, kids like lava lamps.
Yeah, now imagine that in the shape of a hurricane. 10 times better.
Rock me like a hurricane. That's good. Do you want to read the next story?
Yeah. This could be a good one. So it's from Emily.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where. She doesn't say. Just Emily. So she says, "Gentlemen," very formal. "I began listening to your recent subscriber stories episode, somewhat disappointed that I didn't have a story of my own to share." Okay, I thought she was going to leave it there. I was disappointed. Moving on, next story. "But a few minutes in, as Mike mentioned, and Keith soundly rejected the idea of bringing a Ouija board to the haunted attic, a voice from the depths of my memory screamed, 'The Ouija board!' I shrugged it off at first because the Ouija board story is tame, and by Bookie Boo standards. But I kept dwelling on it, and then I remembered the other things that happened the night of the Ouija board story.
The other thing. What's the other thing?
I don't know, it ends there. No.
Yeah. Moving on. Thanks, Emily.
I'm now 44, but back when I was 19, 20ish, I worked as a pizza delivery driver. The restaurant where I worked was open until midnight, and one weekend I was eager to finish my shift and meet up with a few friends of mine. Said friends were Michelle, Lisa and Brad, all of whom were already hanging out at Dylan's house. Dylan lived about 10 miles, 16 kilometres, thank you, outside the town on a gravel road in a pretty rural area.
Do you think in kilometers?
Yeah, I would think. Do you
I
not?
I think in miles for some
Do
reason.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to think
Even though
in
we use
kilometres.
the metric system in Ireland, I think it's because we didn't, when I was growing up though, we didn't use metric
Yeah,
system.
we
used
started off in miles, yeah, and then we switched over to kilometres.
Yeah, but I still think in miles.
There's certain things I think of in metric, and I think the other way for
You
other
really?
stuff. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, not that interesting.
I mean, I'm just trying to make conversation.
Try to fill the air, man.
Yeah.
After the restaurant closed for the night, I called Dylan's landline and told Michelle I would be leaving in a few minutes, about 12:15. From the restaurant to Dylan's house was about a 20-minute drive, so I expected to be there by 12:35 or so. It's important to note that at the time, 1999, 2000, none of us had cell phones, so there was no way to find my friends, no Life 360, and no option to text updates on your location. As I left the restaurant, I noticed I was low on gas, so I stopped to fill up my tank. I then noticed that one of my tires was a bit low, so I went and used the station's air compressor, but it was out of order. Annoyed, I went to the next station down the road. Their compressor was out of order as well. The third station compressor, that was working, so I hurriedly filled the tyre and got back on the road, now delayed by nearly 30 minutes. Bummer. When I arrived, Dylan threw the door open and everyone inside started screaming. I've been known to inspire that response from time to time, but it was unusual for this group. Michelle finally pulled herself together enough to tell me that they'd been playing with the Ouija board before I called, and it had told them that I would arrive at 1:03 a.m. They dismissed it since I told them that I would be there well before that, and they had no idea that I'd be as delayed as I was. I glanced at my watch and it was 1:03.
Interesting. That's a very specific Ouija board. Like,
Isn't it?
That's actually quite handy.
It's really handy. Yeah. I mean, like, you didn't have text or anything, or phones, cell phones, but you had a Ouija board.
Yeah.
Just carry a Ouija board with you
Exactly.
at all times.
Love it.
Super handy. So that's boring as shit for a Ouija board story. No possessions, no rotating heads, no spontaneous levitation, but it was later in the evening that my nerves were rattled a bit. It's important to mention that while the rest of my friends drank pretty regularly, I didn't touch the stuff at the time. So I was sober as a judge all night. At about 3 a.m, Michelle, Dylan and I stood out on the porch to have a wee cigarette.
Ooh.
Dylan's nearest neighbour was about a quarter of a mile, 0.4 kilometres away, with a row of trees marking the property line. During the daylight, you could see the next house over, and on the rare occasion that a car came up the dirt road, you could see the headlights clearly through the trees, but at night, the tree row was basically a brick wall. As the three of us stood on the porch, each randomly raising our cigarettes to our lips, Michelle quietly elbowed me and nodded her head towards the tree row. I watched for a minute and, seeing nothing, was about to ask her what she was looking at, when I saw it too. Against the darkness of the tree line, I saw what looked to be the lit end of a cigarette flaring a light. I looked over at Dylan, who could barely hold his head up moments ago, and realised he'd seen it too. The folks next door were in their 80s, typically went to bed about 8 p.m, and they weren't smokers. I briefly wondered if it could have been a reflection, but as we all stood there watching, cigarettes dangling from our fingers, it happened again. Dylan slowly stubbed his cigarette out and turned to go inside, presumably to get a gun. We lived in one of those yeehaw states. When a truck turned onto the road, the lights filtered through the trees to illuminate the yard and revealed nothing. There was nothing and no one in Dylan's yard. We stood there for a few minutes longer, quietly contemplating whether we'd seen anything at all. As we turned to go back inside, I looked back across the yard and saw the flare of a match in the darkness.
Ooh, that's good.
It is
I like
good.
that.
That's
I
a
like
good
that.
story.
That is good.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Emily. That was good. Really enjoyed
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for memories. Love you both. Love you too, Emily. That's a good ass story. I like that a lot.
that. Yeah, that was good.
All right, let's do one more.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next story, this is from Morgan M from Oregon. I like this. So she's spooky instant. So, hello, Mike and Keith. I wanted to say that I thoroughly. Okay, fine. You just read a story. That was fine. Just go ahead. I wanted to say
dare
that
you interrupt me.
you did it. I fucking did. I wanted to say that I thoroughly enjoy the podcast and videos. Keep up the good work. I've had so many paranormal experiences during my life so far. I'm going to do my best to explain them. Feel free to read all or none. It's up to you. Thanks for giving me the option, Morgan. I choose them. No. Okay, let's go. All right, number 1. When I was 5, I saw the Hat Man. The Hat Man is something a lot of people have seen.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's a recurring ghost that people around the world keep seeing.
Oh, it's kind of like the Dream Man.
Yes. Yeah, very similar. It could even be the same person.
Okay.
I was lying in my bed and something woke me up. I remember looking towards my open door and seeing the silhouette of a man in a long coat and hat. I remember being terrified. I screamed for my mom and she came running. I quickly glanced away from the door to look at my mom, and when I looked back at the door, the shadow was gone. I told my mom what I saw, and she reassured me that it was probably just shadows from my curtains and the streetlight outside. It wasn't until years later that I found out about the Hat Man, and every depiction of him, from the jacket to the hat, spot on. When I asked my mom about, where she came up with the shadow idea, she told me I scared the crap out of her that night, and she scrambled to make anything, just make me feel better.
Ooh.
That is creepy. This is story number 2 from Morgan. Around the ages of 9 to 11, I was once again in bed in a different house and woke up. I looked over to the other side of my room to see 2 child-sized glowing figures. It was just the outlines with no discernible features. Once again, we have these like shadow, pure black figures. Creepy.
Yeah. I've seen shadow people before, and they're very creepy.
Have you?
Yeah, kind of like the corner of my eye.
Like, it's your night terrors?
I've had like sleep paralysis before, but with sleep paralysis, like the same.
Is that different from night terrors?
I don't know. It's probably the same thing.
Okay.
We said night terrors reminds me of, The Simpsons. Cobras. With the sleep paralysis, it's always the same woman that comes. But I've seen, like, during the day while I'm fully awake, it's kind of like from the corner of my eye. It's kind of like a shadowy figure.
You see the shit when you're awake, like in
the day.
But
it's when, like, but it's like, it's from the corner of my eye, but then when I look, there's nothing there, it's gone.
Wow.
It really feels like I can see a shadowy figure of a person at the corner of my eye. Not all the time. It's like, it's not every single day this happens, but every now and again, I'll see someone goes, who's that? And then I'll look and they'll be gone. But, weird.
Who's that?
Who is that? Who is that in my house?
Wow, that's creepy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Learn something new about you every day, Keith.
Yeah,
wow, you're just a man who just continually
surprising
me. Wow, that's fucking creepy.
It is creepy, yeah.
I've never experienced any of this shit.
But like, it's never long enough to scare you.
Yeah, it's more just like, huh?
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. I'm scared of real things, like being pulled into pictures.
yeah, right. Yeah, witches, of course. So one of these child-sized black figures was standing between the wall and a small table, while the smaller one was sitting on the table. I was never scared of them and fell back to sleep. Sometime later, I woke up again to see them at the end of my bed. Again, one was standing, one sitting. I fell back to sleep, never saw them again. Another time, I was looking at my bedroom window at night and saw them swinging on the play set, swinging back and forth. They were not swinging together, but were passing each other. One suddenly stopped, and then the other eventually slowed down. I saw this a few different times while at this house.
None worse than scary children.
Mm-hmm.
Spooky children.
Oh, yeah.
So we got another one here. It is from April. And she is from Dublin.
A dirty dub.
So she starts off with, "Hi Mike and Keith. I'm a long-time fan of the podcast and YouTube channel. It's an absolute honor to be able to send in my own story for your spooky pleasure. For context, I grew up and lived most of my life in a flat in the Liberties in Dublin, right beside the Guinness Brewery. I think it also has that Teelings is out in the Liberties, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
My favorite whiskey. It's good shit. For folks at home, if you ever see Teelings whiskey, Teelings Irish whiskey, get it. By the way, Liberties, isn't that where the other story from the first listener stories was the Liberties 2 that was sent in by Fansha? It was like, remember, she'd been living in an apartment with her boyfriend, Aaron.
I think
drug addict.
Alleged. Yeah.
Alleged.
Oh, no, he wrote it down.
No, yeah. Oh, man. So this is the second story set in Liberties in Dublin.
Something going on out there. We should do a ghost tour of Dublin. There's loads of ghost tours around.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure everyone goes through the Liberties.
She was saying there was a serial killer in Dublin around the time of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
That was actually a good ass story.
That was good.
That was like at the very end. Oh, man. April.
Yeah.
Tell us more. Tell us your story.
Okay, I am intrigued. So close to it, in fact, that from the windows I could see right down into part of the brewery itself and see all the people busy working in there in the Guinness brewery.
Making all the delicious Guinness.
Oh man, I'd love to work there.
In the Guinness brewery?
Yeah.
You probably get sick of Guinness so quick.
I don't think so.
Fair enough.
I mean, after all these years. If not now, when? So the flats I grew up in were built in the 1930s, so it's safe. Oh, that's when my house was built. So it's safe to say...
House buddies.
House buddies. So it's safe to say that a lot of people and families passed through and lived there over the years. The one I lived in was actually my dad's childhood home, and right before I was born, his mum suddenly passed away in the flat. I always knew this, but it never creeped me out. I just accepted it because the buildings were so old, a lot of people probably died in and around them over the years. Doors opening and closing, the TV turning on and off by itself, the taps being turned on, the toilet flushing without anybody being there, was just a part of our day-to-day life.
That's okay. Yeah, creepy shit, but okay.
I mean, like, I'm right there with you. There with you, April. It was so normal that when it would happen, my mum would make an extra cup of tea for who we assumed to be my grandmother hanging around. That's nice. It never scared me because in my mind it was my lovely grandmother, who I never got to meet, but that changed one night when I was 7.
Done.
Dun diddly done. When I couldn't sleep as a kid, I would kneel up on the sofa and watch everybody busy at work in the Guinnesses. I remember one night I was doing just that, and my mum was busy putting my baby sister to sleep in the other room. It was just us in the house. I had my back to the rest of the room, and I could hear everything that was going on in the other room. I heard the sitting room door open and close, assuming it was my mum, and felt a really cold breeze all of a sudden, the type to give you proper goosebumps. I said something about the cold air to my mum, still with my back to the room, thinking she was there. But something or someone answered back with a deep grunting sound.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Oh, it barely sounded human, and it was definitely not my mum.
I don't like this at all.
No. I froze. I couldn't move or make myself turn to look. I was sure I could feel something right behind me. That's when, thank God, I heard my mum coming towards the sitting room, except she couldn't open the door to get in.
Okay, I don't like this shit at all.
The doors had no locks and had never gotten jammed closed before. She was pushing on the door and tried to open it and calling me, thinking that I was playing a trick on her and blocking her or something. At the stage, I was absolutely sobbing and still way too scared to turn around and look behind me. It felt like a good 5 minutes of this, but it was probably only about 30 seconds, and my mum suddenly got the door open. The coldness and feeling of something behind me completely left at that second. She obviously had no clue what had happened or why I was crying, but she believed me straight away. Goes without saying, we obviously stopped making cups of tea for whatever the fuck was in the flat.
You do not deserve tea.
No berries for you, man. Funnily enough, about a week later, the council decided to paint the outside of the flats the grossest orange colour for some reason. So I like to think it was somebody throwing a tantrum about their previous home being painted the ugliest colour ever. I'm 24 now and I don't live there anymore, cost of living in Dublin and all that, but my dad still does and still to this day has weird stuff happen almost daily.
Yikes.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to send this in and hope it was creepy enough for you. It absolutely was.
Yes,
Thank you
that
so much,
was
April.
Definitely right out there, April. That was a very creepy story. In fact, that might be one of the creepier ones. You're right.
Oh, really good.
That grunting sound is fucking terrifying.
It was just the door being jammed closed.
Yeah.
Oh, that was creepy.
It reminds me, so I just had a quick look. It was the Dolacher, was like the serial killer who was in the Liberties in Dublin a couple of hundred years ago. Very creepy stuff.
That's cool. We should do something like that.
The Liberties are haunted, obviously.
Oh, that area, yeah. Like, it has to be. Yeah.
Well, it is kind of a creepy part of the city, actually. Now that I think
it's old. It's a very old part of the city.
Very old part of the city. I mean, like a huge chunk of it is obviously taken up with the Guinness factory.
Yeah.
But even the Guinness factory, it's like, it's a super old building. Like the Guinness factory is actually kind of creepy when you think about it. Like, I don't know. It's just this, I don't know.
Very old, lot of history there.
Yeah.
But very good.
All right, good story, April. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much to everybody who sent in stories. There's some really, really good ones there. Thank you so much for taking the time and effort to write out those stories and send them in. We will definitely be doing more of these listener stories because, as I said, there's 60 odd pages of stories here to get to. So if you sent one in, we haven't gotten to it, we probably will. So
what's the email to send it to?
The email, it's in if you go into the description of the podcast, it's right there, but it's also MikeOHello, so MikeOHHELLO @gmail.com. MikeOHello at gmail.com. Give it a go. Please do. And we will catch you on the flip side, motherfucker.
Flippity flip.
All right. Thanks so much for listening.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye.